two-wheeler automotive universe is still trembling from the aftershock of the bomb that Triumph dropped a few months ago, the launch of the Speed 400. And for good reason, because it's gone on to set a new benchmark for every other manufacturer, proving that affordability and quality can go hand in hand. But truth be told, at the day of the launch, the one motorcycle which had pretty much every single journalist in the room gasping for breath was undoubtedly this, the Triumph Scrambler 400X. And why not? Just look at it. Looks absolutely smashing. I mean, my love for the Triumph Scrambler 1200XC is an open secret. I absolutely love that machine. And this looks like a perfectly well-proportioned, scaled-down iteration of the same motorcycle with the same attention to detail, really good craftsmanship, and more importantly, serious componentry. We're talking about a 19-inch front wheel, a 17-inch rear. You have 150 mm of travel on both ends, which is 10 mm more at the front and 20 mm more compared to the Speed 400. And this in turn has allowed Triumph to gain a ground clearance of 195 mm. Then you have this tall, wide handlebar, you have grippy pegs, you have really wide, well-padded seats for the rider as well as the pillion, you have dual-purpose tires, and you have a motorcycle now which is 40 mm longer and has a seat height of 835 mm. All designed to make the Scrambler 400X the unmistakable choice for anyone who's looking to explore our beautiful country. But can it deliver on that promise? Let's go and find out. Why off-road, you ask? Well, I say why not? I mean, this is exactly why this genre of motorcycling was born. People took their motorcycles, stripped them down to the bare minimum, added long travel suspension so they could go anywhere they wanted. Places like this. And here we are again, thanks to the motorcycle, because I am genuinely impressed with how well it does off-road. So as soon as we hit the trail, as soon as I stood up, I felt really confident because the standing ergonomics are pretty much spot on. The foot pegs are grippy and wide. You have a tall and wide handlebar. The waistline is really slim, and you also have these tank pads which makes it very easy for you to hold on to the motorcycle and move around and let the long travel suspension do its job, which came really handy again at the start of the trail because it was quite rocky. But then that combined with the 19-inch front saw the bike just plow through everything. Then you have the other things, right? So even if you are a little bit worried, what if you drop the bike? Well, Triumph has you covered because you already have stuff like you have this grille on the headlight, you have a grille for the radiator, you have a sum guard, you have hand guards. So even if you do drop the bike, the damage is minimum. And another thing which really boosts your confidence is the fact that you have 195 mm of ground clearance at your disposal, which is good enough for you to pretty much go anywhere you want to go, provided you have the right set of skills. Helping you with those skills is of course the engine. Now this is exactly the same engine as we have seen on the Speed 400, makes the same power, makes the same torque. The only difference is the final drive is different, the sprockets are different. Now the Speed 400 runs a 1543 sprocket set, whereas this one runs a shorter 1443 sprocket. How does that help? It helps you keep the revs higher that much effortlessly. I know what you're thinking. The downside of having such an aggressive sprocket is, yeah, you are going to lose about 10 kilometers per hour of top speed when you're out on the road. But out here, this definitely cannot hold a candle to its long stroke competitors. It doesn't really have that bottom end. But from 2500 RPM onwards, it pulls quite cleanly. Fueling low down is immaculate, and that's where the shorter gearing really helps. You can get through even the most technical sections just by feathering the clutch, which I have to add. The slip and assist clutch is really nice and light to operate, but I would have preferred both the brake and the clutch levers to be adjustable for reach. And then when you're out there having fun, you can really step it up, having the ability to switch off the traction control and the rear ABS, yeah, so that it gives you a lot more control. You can actually dare to switch off the traction control also because of the longer wheelbase, which helps put the power down in a more linear, progressive fashion. It generates a little more grip. But having said all of that, I have to make it very, very clear that this is a soft-roader. Yeah, this is not really meant for hard enduro. For that, you need spoke wheels, you need a 21-inch front, to say the least. And that's okay, because this is only a part of the equation that Triumph had envisioned for the Scrambler. And I have a feeling that this is going to shine just as much when we hit the road. The one thing that you expect from your motorcycle, especially when you hit the highway, is comfort, because you intend to spend a lot of time in the saddle, and that's exactly where the Scrambler 400X scores so much more even compared to the Speed 400. And that's mainly down to the revised ergonomics. So now the handlebar is wider and taller, so you're sitting more upright. You also have foot pegs which are more lower set, and then you also have the seat for the rider as well as the pillion, which is flat and very well padded, designed for the long hauls. So you have a rider's triangle, which is a lot more accommodating, especially for taller folks. So yeah, you have a lot of room to move around. Then you have the suspension setup. So already the ride quality on the Speed 400 was quite commendable, and the Scrambler 400X takes that even further with its longer travel suspension. Even when you encounter broken roads, I love the compliance that this suspension setup brings to a table. And the craziest part is that this doesn't come at the expense of sportiness when you hit the twisty bit. I was genuinely surprised at how agile this motorcycle is despite the longer wheelbase. And that's mainly down to the sharper rake and the leverage of the wide handlebar. So even when it comes to quick change of direction, this is surprisingly quick for a motorcycle of its size. And once you put in the corners, even when you're scraping pegs, I was astonished at how stable it felt. So yeah, this is a lot of fun in corners, exactly what a Scrambler should be. But I have to say that I was left a little bit disappointed on the engine front. I was expecting it to be a lot more sprightly, yeah, especially with the more aggressive sprocket set that this one has compared to the Speed 400. The reason why it's not is mainly down to the weight, the 9 kg weight gain, which has come from the chassis, from the tires, from the wheels. And that's why it doesn't accelerate as fast out of corners as the Speed 400 does. But then you can also argue that that was not the intent of the Scrambler 400. The main idea of this vehicle was to be fun off-road and to be a proper cruise machine on the highway. And cruise it does very, very well. It's surprisingly tractable in the third gear. As long as you're above 2500 RPM, it pulls quite cleanly. The fueling low down is immaculate. A lot of that also has to do with the fact that 30 Newton meters of its 37 Newton meters are available from just 3000 RPM. And of course, the more aggressive sprocket helps the engine spool up that much quicker. And on the right stretch of road, you can easily cruise on this at 130, 135 kilometers an hour with the engine in its sweet spot. There are vibrations, just like on the Speed 400, which first come in around 4000 RPM, go away and come back strongly around 7000 RPM. But in the 5th and 6th gear, they are not as pronounced. Where else can it be better? I was expecting better stopping power considering how good the brakes were on the Speed 400, and especially the fact that this one gets a bigger 320mm disc. The reason you feel that they are not as strong is also because this one doesn't get the sintered pads that the Speed 400 gets. And I get why Triumph have done that, because they expect a lot of people to take this off-road, and you don't want brakes which are really sharp in an environment like that where you don't have a whole lot of traction. But I feel in that case then maybe they should have gone for more stickier rubber, because right now during emergency braking, I feel the bike doesn't stop where you want it to, and you're just engaging the ABS a whole lot quicker. Next, you have the gear shifts. Just like on the Speed 400, they are very precise. It's just that the gearbox is not as slick, especially when you're going down the gears. So that's where I feel there's still room for improvement. So that finally brings us to the million-dollar question. Is this everything that we thought it to be, in line with the phenomenal value that the Speed 400 got to the table? I personally feel that this is about 10,000 rupees more expensive than what I was expecting, mainly because when you compare it to the introductory price of the Speed 400, now this stands at 2,63,000, about 40,000 rupees more. I feel at 2,53,000, this would have been as much of a no-brainer as the Speed 400, looking at everything that you're getting in this package. But at this price point, this is precariously close to the KTM 390 Adventure X, and also of course there's the new upcoming Himalayan, which I feel is going to be priced very, very similar to this. Yeah, but there's no denying the fact that Triumph have come good on their promise on delivering the Scrambler that we have always wanted. Yeah, I do wish that it accelerated as strongly as the Speed 400, but I can live with that considering how comfortable this is and how much fun it is when you go off-road. And this now is undoubtedly a very, very strong benchmark for the new upcoming Himalayan. So, game on.